Lesson 2-2, solving two-step equations. So a real quick review from our last lesson 2-1. We were solving a one-step equation. Remember those inverse operations, we're trying to undo the operation that is already there. So in this case, since there's subtraction, we add 4 to both sides to undo and get rid of that constant. Then we have isolated our variable, and we're left with x equals 12. In today's lesson, a problem is going to look more like this. There are two operations happening. If you notice, the 2 is being multiplied to the x, and there's addition. So you need to know which one to undo first. So first step is always to identify the operations. We already mentioned that there's multiplying happening and addition. You're going to be undoing the operations in reverse order of the order of operations. Normally we multiply and divide before we add and subtract. This time we're going to do the adding and subtracting before the multiplying and dividing. First, look for constants. Those are the numbers by themselves. You're going to undo those first. Second, you're going to undo the coefficients. Those are the numbers attached to a variable. Those will be the second step that you undo. So let's do an example together. 2x plus 3 equals 15. So here's my constant of positive 3. I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. My 3's go away. I now have my 2x equaling to 15 minus 3, which is 12. Now I can divide by 2. X equals 6. Let's do one more example. 5 equals t over 2 minus 3. Here's my constant. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So now I have 8 and t over 2 because these canceled. Now I'm going to undo that coefficient. This divide by 2 I can undo by multiplying by 2. So now the 2's cancel. I have just t equaling 16. You also need to know how to write an equation involving two operations. In this example, you're going to be decorating a big bulletin board to advertise community service opportunities. You plan to use a half sheet of construction paper for each ad. So if you have a piece of construction paper, a half sheet of paper will get you one ad. But you also need 5 full sheets for the title banner that will probably hang at the top of your bulletin board. You have a total of 18 sheets of construction paper to use. So whenever you hear total, that's your equals 18. Let's write an equation to find out how many ads you can make. All right, we know that in equations we need a variable. If you don't know what variable to use, go back to the question and see what they're asking. How many ads can you make? Well, let's let x equal the number of ads. I have 18 pieces of paper. I know that every ad takes up a half a sheet. So half a sheet times all the ads that I have to make. Plus, I need 5 sheets for my banner. This is my equation. I can then solve this two-step equation by subtracting 5 from both sides. I get 13 equals 1/2 x is the same as x over 2. Now I multiply by 2 to both sides to undo the division, and I get x equals 23. So I can make 23 ads with the amount of paper that I have. All right, here's another example of a two-step equation with 2 terms in the numerator. So x minus 7 over 3 equals negative 12. First, undo what's furthest away from the variable. The negative 7 is pretty close. Let's get rid of the divide by 3. So I'm going to times by 3 to both sides. That eliminates my 3's. I have x minus 7 equaling a negative 36. And then I can add 7 to both sides. I get x equals negative 29. All right. Skip that last example. The final thing they want you to learn in this lesson is how to justify your reasoning. Okay, we've done this before with properties of numbers, But this time we're going to use those, let me go back a slide. Remember that whenever you add something to both sides, so if I had if I had x minus 3 equals 7, and I want to undo this minus 3, I add 3 to both sides. The reason I can do that, or the reason I want to do that, is remember we want to keep our balance scale equal. Well, adding 3 or doing something to both sides of an equation is a property of equality. So this right here would be the addition property of equality. It allows us to do an operation to both sides. We're going to use those property of equalities to justify solving a two-step equation. So here was our original equation, negative t plus 8 equals 3, so that was our original. Now to get rid of the plus 8, we're going to subtract 8 to both sides. I can do that because of the subtraction property of equality. Now I'm going to simplify. 8 minus 8 and 3 minus 8 is negative 5, and the 8's cancel. I have just negative t. You can just say simplify or subtracting to simplify. Now, my preference is to eliminate this step right here, and I look at it as negative t is the same thing as negative 1 times t. To get rid of that, I'm just going to divide by negative 1 to both sides. That's the division property of equality. And then I'm going to use division to simplify, and I get my final answer. So we're justifying using those properties of equality. Let's do an example together. X over 3 minus 5 equals 4. This was given to us. It was the original problem. First, I'm going to add 5 to undo this operation. So I'm going to, let's just get a different color here, add 5 to both sides. I can do that because of the addition property of equality. Now I want to see what I have. Well, I have x over 3 equals 9 because I just did my addition to simplify. Now I want to do or undo the divide by 3. So I am going to multiply both sides by 3. Doing that is the multiplication property of equality. And finally, I'm going to simplify to get my final answer. The 3's cancel. I have just x. 9 times 3 is 27. So you want to show all of your steps as well as your justification for how you got to your answer. This brings us to our lesson check. Please complete 1 through 5. In number 5, remember that you are writing the equation and solving. Good luck!